Welcome to Heart of North Texas, a philanthropic podcast that celebrates the work of nonprofit organizations in the region. In each episode, we will bring you stories of compassion, resilience, and dedication from the people who are making a difference in the lives of others. This episode brought to you by Credit the Cause, the home of the infinite donation. Today's guest is Marta Lilly of Hendrick Scholarship Foundation. And now, Zoe Martin.
I am really interested to learn more about the Hendrick Scholarship Foundation because I know so little about it. I heard about it probably a year ago. I was in the Allen Fairview Chamber, and sometimes we have a spotlight, a 5-minute, and I believe that someone came and gave a little 5-minute demonstration or presentation about it. But then recently I was at the Plano City Lifestyle event, and Angie had different nonprofits that had booths there to represent, and Hendrick Scholarship Foundation was there. And I thought, oh my goodness, I am familiar with it, but I don't know a lot about it. So first of all, I want you to tell me how you got involved with this foundation.
Okay, so I had board members from a previous job that knew that I was currently looking for a new position, and Hendrick Scholarship Foundation was in a transition period, and they needed my operational skills to help get it into the new transition. So I was semi-recruited.
Okay, and how long have you been with them?
I've been with them 4 years.
All right. And over 4 years, are there things that have changed or evolved?
Yes. So over 4 years. So when I got there, we were not in a good position financially. They had some issues. So one of the things with scholarships is it's very easy to over offer, and then you have to be able to pay up as they go through. And so there was some confusion there before. So where we are now is 100% of our scholarship is funded before it's offered to a student. So we have some things put in place, guardrails, as you would say. We've started an endowment fund, which they did not have before. So that guarantees us income every year that we didn't have before. We also have increased our numbers. In 4 years, we've gone from serving 50 students to serving 104 students.
Wow.
And so with that, since you don't know too much about us, but we do a one-to-one mentorship. So in addition to 104 students, we also have 104 volunteer mentors. So one for each student that is in college with us. So that's also increased as the number of volunteers that we are lucky enough to work with. And it's really just been about putting policies and procedures, operational skills in place, and getting us up to a point where when I started, they were making about $250,000 a year, and now we're over a little over $700,000 a year. And we will hopefully in the next few years reach the $1 million mark, and then hopefully get to 1.5 as our goal.
So we need to back up because I do know enough about the Hendrick Scholarship Foundation that I know what you're talking about, but some of our listeners won't. So tell me, what does the Hendrick Scholarship Foundation offer?
So we are a scholarship program. So we work with Plano ISD's graduating seniors that live at or below the poverty line, that have the desire to go to college, and that finance is one of the reasons that's holding them back. But in addition to the financial support we give them, and it's up to $20,000 over the 4 to 6 year period it takes them to graduate, we give them the one-to-one mentorship, which makes a huge difference. Coming from an underserved population, they're usually first in their family to go to college, and so there's a lot of things that their family doesn't understand or may not be able to support their student in. One of the other things that we find out is that since the majority of our students are living in poverty, we know that students who live in poverty receive 5 comments a day, and 4 out of those 5 comments are negative. Where once you move up to middle income, they receive 9 comments a day, and 8 out of those 9 are positive. So the mentorship could just be something as small as texting a positive comment once a week. It's whatever it's going to take to get them to trust you, develop a relationship with you, so they know they truly have someone in their corner. And it's not just the one volunteer, it's the whole community. I mean, my coworkers that I work with that focus on the Student Success Program, which is what we call the program the kids are in, they're available. Okay, I'm not going to say we're 24/7, but obviously there's phone, there's text, there's email, and it's a community that is available to the students. If it's not something that we directly can't handle, then we have a 29-member board, and we can shoot it out to them, and they usually will respond within 24 hours, and we can get something resolved pretty quickly. We also have a lot of community support. There's a lot of things that I'm sure you understand as a nonprofit, that these are things that we can pay for. These are things we cannot. But we have a lot of community members who will support our kids, and they will pay for those other unmet needs that arise as we go through the school year.
Well, now that you mentioned those, what you can and can't, $20,000 over 4 or 5 years, is that right?
Right.
What is it able to cover? Is that just tuition or tuition and books?
Yeah, it goes tuition, boarding, books, food. For the most part, it covers most of their costs, depending on how they go. Some colleges are more expensive than other by their choice. And there may be times where they do have to take out a loan to cover the difference. If they start out at a 2-year school, chances are they will be refunded money. And while we would encourage them to save that money for the next semester if something comes up, they may need to use that money for, food, for rent, for, hopefully something to help them stay successful and current and not be frivolous. But we don't know. So we do trust them enough to have the money refunded to them versus to us.
Are there schools that you partner with that maybe offer a way that the tuition is helped out in some way, or everything is just flat across the board?
It's pretty much flat across the board, but we do pay out in a matrix. And so if they go to a community college or a 2-year college first, like, for example, Collin College, where a lot of our kids do go, we pay out less those first 2 years. But then the difference is they get much larger payouts when they transfer to the 4-year school. Versus if you started a 4-year school, it's going to be a lesser amount, but evenly spread out amongst all 4 years or 6 years, depending on how long it takes them to get there.
And every year, are you trying to, obviously you're trying to increase the amount of students that you're able to help. Do you have a goal for 2025?
2025. So the last 3 years, we've been able to take 30 students, an average of 30, and which was up from, they took about 13 when I first started. So we've had a huge increase then. Our goal is to take another 30 students. I think we have a projected planning model for the next 10 years, and basically we're going to average between 25 and 30 students would be our goal.
Okay. That's interesting.
But that means we have to have $20,000 in hand for each one of those students. And that can be a pledge where someone has agreed to pay the $20,000 over 4 to 5 years, or they can pay the whole thing up front.
How are people finding out about the foundation?
Donors or students?
Both.
Okay, so I can clarify. So for students, my coworkers, Kyla and Tony, will go to the 3 high schools. Actually, there's 4 high schools. And they talk with, number one, the AVID classes, which is Advancement via Independent Determination, which is a class that does start in elementary school, and it helps the students with study habits and organization. And as they move through the ladders, when they get to high school and the senior high, it spends more time on colleges and why you go to college and how you enter college. And they actually will, their junior and senior year, will work with them on writing, the essays for scholarships, for application. They help them with the FAFSA form, and all of that is done with an AVID class. If they're not in AVID, we do try and get them through the counselors and the principals. We try and meet and speak with all of them so they know who we are and what we do, and we would love for them to recommend students for the program. So the current program that we pretty much have been discussing is the 2 to 4 year program. But we also are very interested in helping students in workforce as well, more along, the HVAC or the technical side. We have a good, solid relationship with Collin College on that one. But like HVAC and welding and construction management, and then also on the healthcare side. We absolutely will look at other workforce opportunities that the students come up with, but we're trying to build that program that's newer and just starting out.
Well, and I'm curious, since this is Plano based, how did it get started?
So Dr. Wayne Hendrick is who the organization was founded after. He actually was the superintendent for 30 years in Plano ISD. So way back when it was truly farm country, to up to the time when we started being named one of the number one cities to live in. And so he took it through all that growth. And at the time he retired, it was a time where a lot of people would be offered these wonderful vacations as part of their retirement package. And he chose to have this foundation developed instead of that. And so the community, the business community came around and they put the foundation together. It was a group of, I think, about 10 gentlemen at that time, and they literally would sit in a room, and the different students would come in, and they would all sit there and write checks. And then they soon realized that that was really not sustainable.
Yeah.
And so very kind and great, because they're all crying as they're writing these checks out. And so they got additional people involved, and it truly became much more of a foundation at that period, as what we know it now, where we have an annual gala to help raise money. And, everyone is an ambassador who is connected with us to help go out there and talk to people. But I know you had asked earlier how we get money, and 88% is individuals who donate to us, and then the other 12% is corporations and grants.
The Heart of North Texas is sponsored in part by Credit the Cause, a payment processing company that donates 40% of gross revenue to a charity of the business's choosing, turning the cost of doing business into purposeful giving. Visit creditthecause.com, the home of the infinite donation. And now, back to the Heart of North Texas with Zoe Martin.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with how the Heart of North Texas got started. Frito and I had talked about a way that we could help people understand how they could get plugged into the community.
Okay.
I think a lot of people want to give back. They just don't know what's going to make their heart sing. And so when they find what it is, then, they're willing to either donate their time, their money, or even, raising awareness about the different organizations and sharing, I know somebody, that could be a good candidate for this. Mm-hmm. And so when we did that, the goal for us is to help spread the word, to help people find out what you offer. And one of the things that I'm thinking, since it's a Plano-based organization, are there other local organizations that are doing something similar? Or is this Plano the only one that you're aware of?
So as far as independent school districts go, I think Plano is the only one that's truly set up this way. A lot of the other ISDs that I understand, they do scholarships within their education foundation. And the Plano ISD Education Foundation does more of major programming. So they actually reach more students. I think all of the ISDs, the education foundations, will do grants to educators, where the educators can apply for grants to start new programs, and they can get money for that. I think all of them do that. And then a lot of the scholarships that are given out from the different ISDs that I know of are usually a one-time award for your freshman year. Mm-hmm. So Plano ISD is just set up differently. They use their foundation that's how they started the Academy High School. It's how they started. They have a 4-year health program that you can attend, and when you come out, you literally have 2 years worth of college credit, and you have certain certifications in the healthcare field. They have an IB Academy that I believe they also started. So it works on a different concept than the other ISDs. And so we were kind of an arm it's a dotted line to PISD. So we are not financially supported by them for staffing or anything like that, but we provide the scholarship part, and then we just do it in a much larger capacity of multiple years versus just a 1-year thing. We want to make sure that we truly get the student from A to Z, and that hopefully when they finish that, they will either land a job in their field or what they think their field is. We all know how that is. And or they decide to go on for their master program. So at this time, we are very happy that we have a 68% graduation rate, which for this social economic group is 5 times greater than the state average. So we have great metrics, and we have amazing kids, though. That's just truly what makes it. But it is a village. So, it's the kids, it's the board, it's the staff, and it's all of the ambassadors and volunteers that help us make it the success that it is to get that kind of rating.
Well, and my thought process here is that if there's other schools or ISDs that don't have something like this in place, then they can hear how you're making it happen, and maybe somebody can take that on with one of the other ISDs. But I'm curious, you've got so many volunteers, and it's the one-to-one, I think, mentoring part of it that speaks most to me, is because I grew up in a not so, I guess we were lower middle class. I mean, I had to get the lunch ticket paid for, and I was embarrassed to eat lunch because I didn't know if my meal card looked different than everyone else's. And so I understand that socioeconomic, I don't even know what the right word is, there's a fine
that
line.
Lifestyle.
Right. There's a fine line where you're like accepting a handout, and is that okay? Is that not okay? And having that mental stigma. I don't want to be different. It wasn't my choosing.
Right.
And so here we are. But having a mentor would have been fantastic. Maybe I would have graduated college. So
right.
So.
It does. It makes a huge difference. I mean, sometimes it's just, I'll be honest that the kids don't know how to read their financial aid. They don't understand it. They don't necessarily understand their degree plan either. And a lot of times, especially when it comes to the degree plan, you may end up taking a class that you never needed. And when you're on a budget, a tight budget, that's the last thing you want to do.
Right.
So, and again, it's just having that positive contact, and then there's, we also want to provide training for the coaches, because we don't want them to be a parent. And so there's a fine line there. Right. And I know, we've talked to them, and it's like, oh, that's my parenting voice. That's not what I need to do here. But, and there's many of them that are still very well connected with their coaches. So Rutledge Hager, who is one of our founders, he had the first student who is still in contact with him.
Nice.
His name is Andy, but Andy owns his own landscaping business up in Allen. So it's nice. It's, I will say our alumni program is still in development, because, it's kind of all scattered on who knows who type of thing. But it's a lasting relationship. And
That's
it does, I've had many coaches tell me that they feel like they got more out of it than the student might have. But hopefully the students they're smart, and they get it, and they know that this person can truly help them in a way that maybe somebody else couldn't.
That's fantastic. And I really like the again, going back to why we started the podcast, we want people to know what fills their cup, and being a mentor could definitely be that for someone.
Absolutely.
What do you think is someone who is wanting to mentor? What would be some good characteristics for that kind of person?
It's really someone who truly has a heart for students and for education, are probably number 1 and 2. It's someone who's willing to commit for 4 to 6 years. And while it's not a lot of time each month, it's just a very long-term commitment, which is something that deters a lot of people. And that's okay, because there's a lot of people out there who are willing to do it. It is a learning process. I think a lot of people have come from different backgrounds. And so you do need to know how to talk to kids from poverty. It's different. And, they want to be known for where they are now and how far they've succeeded. They don't really necessarily want to go into their backstory. And that's something that you need to develop that relationship with. So someone who's willing to take the time to develop a relationship to get to truly understand where that student is coming from and where they want to go. So we try and do a little bit of alignment, if we can, to find coaches that are in the same field of study, to have some of that, so that there's some kind of expertise there that they can share with the students. I will say I had one student who I talked with. He was so cute about this. He goes, well, we're both introverts. They're both in computer science. And he goes, it would be really helpful if you give us a card of topics to talk about. So, something to keep in mind. Do we truly want 2 introverts together? Right. But, everything is, it's always learning. And for the students also to know that it's not just that one mentor. They do have a whole family. And the coaches will reach out to us when they need more help. And so, again, we do have that community that can step up. We can find them and help get them to the next level or meet that next person.
And are you currently looking for volunteers?
Absolutely. We always are. We do it year round because it takes a while. We have 30 students coming on. We will need 30 new coaches. We do what we call a coach interest session. We do them about once a month where they come, they sit down, and we go over what's truly the involvement and the paperwork that's due. We do require a background check. So we do want to make sure that the kids are safe. They are 18, so, once they graduate high school, they're pretty much on their own on that respect. But we talk about, we do have resources for them. We do try and provide some training for them. We use a portal system, so there is some technology involved about, uploading some documents. We also do a survey. We meet with our students at the end of every semester, and it's the coach and the student, and then usually one other person from the staff or the board, and another position that we have called a coordinator. And the coach and the student each get a survey that they fill out. They don't necessarily see each other's surveys because we want them to be very honest, because sometimes the match is not good, and then we want to fix it. But it's, it's a way to check in on the students for mental health and where they are on their grades, and, are you changing your major, and how much debt are you incurring, and how many hours do you work? And it's always kind of fun on the mental health one. We're saying, how are you feeling this semester? And we give them, 1 to 5 scale. And, the survey always goes out during finals. So, probably not, we always get kind of lower numbers on there. And so, of course, we immediately check in, and they're like, oh, it was just finals. And it's like, okay, which is good. We hope that's what it always is. But, so there's always growth on our part, too, for doing that. And then the coach will fill out that. And then we want to know things like, were they responsive? Did they respond to you within 48 hours? How many times did you guys talk each month or each week? And the students are also required to do a certain number of workshops over the year. So how many workshops have you done? And then we do like as many students as possible to come to our annual event. And we work with them on their networking skills during that event. And I will say that the majority of the attendees from the event will say the best part of the night was meeting and talking with the students.
Oh, my goodness.
So go ahead.
Before you explain anything else, like that is like, I'm ding, 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 ding.
Okay.
Wait, how do I get involved in that?
So it's our annual event, and we're actually looking for sponsorships right now.
Okay.
So it's called Taste of Elegance, and it is March 6th of 2025, and it will be over at Mercedes-Benz of Plano. And we have about 16 to 20 different Plano-based restaurants that come up and set up a table, and they give you a very nice-sized taste of one of their items. And there's also the silent auction and the live auction, and the program is usually very, very short because it's truly a party. It's a party with a purpose. We do not have tables. It's, cocktail tables, and people are walking and around all of that. It is a true party. So it's very, very hard to get that quiet to actually do a presentation. We've tried a few years, and we're just at this point, we're like, okay, it's just not going to work. Yeah. We're not going to fight it. They're having too much fun. But yes, always we look for volunteers to help run that. We look for sponsors for that as well. And of course, we would love people to attend.
That's fantastic.
People can find all the information on Hendrick Scholarship Foundation. It's at hendrickscholarship.org is our website.
Okay.
And it's got everything in there for the student application is available on there. It opens in December. We also have all the information for coaches in there. Information on our events are in there. So everything, and it has the whole rundown of who's on our board and what we do, our mission statement. Everything is on that.
Fantastic. And I feel like there's more opportunities where there's a gala, but then the taste. Is there anything else that you all do for fundraisers?
We're trying this year some little mini fundraisers. We have a wine tasting happening this week, and then we're looking at doing a bourbon whiskey tasting in the spring. But for the most part, it's we do North Texas Giving Day, which was that, and we do our end of year fun, but that taste takes almost all year for us to plan.
Okay.
So we pretty much stick with that.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with the Giving Circle. I've started one. It's called Caring for Collin County. The idea is that we get 100 people or 100 businesses together, and we each donate $100 4 times a year so that we can give $10,000 to a nonprofit. And I'm curious, $10,000 would be half
yes.
of an entire of the
of
4 to 6 year program, right?
Right.
Yes. So that I'm
That'd
not
be-
familiar with, I mean, if one person were to individually do that, that would be incredible. But I feel like for me, the whole reason I got involved in a giving circle was because $10,000 was quite an expense out of one person's pocket for me. But $100, I could handle that 4 times a year. And
Exactly.
so another cool thing I want to mention is that if anyone's interested in doing a giving circle, there are multiple around DFW area, and with 60,000 plus nonprofits, there's a lot of areas, nonprofits that are deserving. You need to figure out what's good for you. But when I started giving to a giving circle, I actually got 3 of my friends together, and the 4 of us donated $25 collectively and came up with that $100 together. And so
That's great.
I think, if there's some people that are like, $100 is a stretch, I get that. I've been there. So,
right. Especially the younger crowd. And if we're trying to get younger people more involved in
Yes.
giving back, absolutely.
Yeah, so consider how that you can be a part, and don't think that, you can't get involved, because you totally can. There's opportunities, I'm sure, with your events where you need volunteers that can staff the event. Tell me a little bit more about how people can volunteer, like individually.
Sure. So individually, like at Taste, we need people to help with registration. We need help with setup. Otherwise, the majority of our volunteers are board members. If that's something we want to do, we have different committees. So we're always looking for expertise in marketing to help with that website. And I think right now we're actually looking for someone to help us with an annual report. We'd like to do a digital annual report. So we're looking for expertise in that area. So it's more like specific little individual one-on-one things other than Taste, where we use volunteers and then a coach.
Okay. Fantastic. There's a lot of information that we went over today, but was there anything that I left out that you wanted to make sure that gets on the air?
No, I think we covered it all.
Okay.
So pretty much.
Fantastic. I appreciate you being on the show with us today, and all the information to get in touch with you is going to be in the show notes. So people are more than welcome to reach out and get involved.
Absolutely. We would love that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of the success of the Heart of North Texas podcast. This episode was brought to you by Credit the Cause, home of the infinite donation. Please check our show notes for contact information for the program, our guests, and our sponsors, and please tag us on your social media. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.